So this is a topic that is very close to my heart as a Black entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for the past 8 years. I started out working with hair care, skincare companies, some of which eventually got into Target, Walmart. Many of those companies, I would write their website copy. They would pitch their website, pitch their products into Target and Walmart through some of the programs that they had available, and they had been in shelves ever since that time period, being a startup. But it's 2025 and the DEI rollbacks have started. I saw a video from Tabitha Brown. I'm seeing videos on TikTok. I'm seeing my Instagram. By the way, it's at Tiffy G Writes if you want to follow along and talk about entrepreneurship and marketing messaging. And I saw one of my clients, what she was talking about, how they're not in Target anymore and how they're going to be functioning from their website. And one of the main gaps that happens in the business market as a whole isn't just not having access to being in Target, being in Walmart. It's not understanding the knowledge of business and marketing fundamentals. And I'm so glad I work with clients that do get that, do understand I have to have my own website. I have to have ownership of my email list. I cannot depend on any other entity. Any other entity is just like a cherry on top, but the core of my business has to be owned and operated by me, meaning I cannot rely on Facebook only. I can't rely on having a contract with, Target or Walmart or any of these agencies. You have to have ownership. And yes, ownership does take time, resources, and all of those things, but it's like you're gonna have to decide if you're willing to sacrifice. All people have to sacrifice, but especially our community, being that so many things are against us right now and have been historically for a long time. But with the DEI, what a lot of contracts that were going out, they had like the minority business certifications, the woman-owned business certifications in government contracting. They had DEI workshops, so you could get a contract. And I've had contracts like these, okay, where it's like you can go and speak for $1,800, $3,000, $20,000. You can go on these platforms and you don't even have to leave your house, and you can talk about diversity. When I say diversity, talking about, for me, cultured communications, how the Black community communicates with one another, how we communicate with others, how to use empathy-driven narratives. These are topics that I have been hired to speak on contracts that I've went into contract for throughout the world, okay? Not just in America, in Israel as well. And so what people don't realize, being somebody that's on the ground in these industries, people don't understand there's a lot of different dynamics here. One is the message that sends when DEI is rolled back, because it's not really about LGBT and all these things. They say that, but it's mainly targeting African-owned companies. It's mainly targeting African employees, African-American and African employees. And so this is a bittersweet time. I say sweet because whenever we're under this friction, the Black community and African communities tend to stick together a little closely. I know I was on a call with a client just this last weekend, Friday, and she was like, you know what, I do want you and my team to know that I really do appreciate you guys. I really do care about you guys. You guys are so helpful. You have helped me scale, like just showing a lot of gratitude, because there's something that happens when there's that pressure that's put on our community that is like this humility, like, okay, wake up, we all we got, meaning your Black dollars need to be spent with Black African businesses, okay? So there's this whole initiative going out right now to boycott Target. And what Tabitha Brown was saying, she was like, well, don't boycott some of the Black businesses that are in Target. You can still boycott all of Target, but just buy Black. And to be honest, one of the biggest boycotts, because I've been about Black entrepreneurship ever since I got out of high school, to be honest, and got out of college. One of the biggest boycotts to that system is to just leave it behind. Pay your taxes, do what's necessary, but leave it behind. As in, hop on a plane, go to a country that has predominantly African or indigenous people, melanated people, and live in that country and do business with locals. That's like the best boycott that you can have, because you can only boycott a Western society to so much of an extent. There's just like, you can boycott to an extent, but the institution you're working with is still MAGA, for lack of a better term. And so this is a great time for people to really think, like, what do you want your legacy to be? Do you want your legacy to be, okay, my children are going to inherit more frustration and microaggressions and inequity? Is that what we want to pass down? For us, we answered that as a married couple, as a family. We were like, no, we want our lineage and our legacy to be that we put a stop to it and said, okay, it's time to exit and to go somewhere where we are the majority, or indigenous people are the majority. Okay. That's just the reality. That's what we want to do. That's what we continue to do. That's what we always will do. And a lot of times that does mean sacrificing convenience. And this is why I love Africa so much, because Africans collectively are always willing to sacrifice. Even Asians are willing to sacrifice. But our community in America puts convenience over everything else. And so if convenience is your God, you're going to have a very difficult time. Okay, you're gonna have a difficult time building your business, because you know you have to invest in your own knowledge, your marketing, your business development, understanding your finances. You're gonna have to forego some of that Starbucks, forego Disneyland, forego the Beyonce concert, forego X, Y, and Z trip up to Canada, forego this, that, and the other, and really decide, do I want to invest in my business? Do I want to invest in my people? And the answer should be a resounding yes, but that can be difficult when convenience is your God above everything else. For us, convenience is not our God, meaning I'm willing to be uncomfortable if it's for the betterment of the African collective. I'm willing to be uncomfortable if it's for the betterment of my lineage and legacy. I'm willing to be uncomfortable, learn a new skill, up-level my skills, invest in our businesses, if it's for the betterment of my collective community as the continent as a whole, because that should just be base logic. That should just be like super simple. It doesn't need that much of an explanation, because on the trajectory that you're on right now, you've been set back to Jim Crow. And I know I've said this for years. I've said this in the past, and I've said, y'all, and I saw this when I was just 18. And I told my dad back then, like, I'm not going to live in North America, FYI. And he was like, well, that's fine. You can live wherever you want. As long as you have your resources, you do whatever you want. I was like, okay, cool. But the African community, because you're going to have to also see yourself as African. All Africans across the world need to see themselves as African, need to see themselves as indigenous, meaning you also need to be able to unify with like indigenous Australians, indigenous people all over the world, because that's where the unity is right now. And that's what has to happen if you're going to survive and have a legacy and lineage that survives. In North America, that's not going to happen. It's impossible for it to happen. The only way for it to be okay is for you to bow down somewhat to that system and be MAGA, essentially, and just bow down and be like, well, let me turn an eye to the fact that all these Black businesses are no longer able to operate in Target. Let me turn an eye to the fact that Black employees that were hired under DEI, so to get a little bit of representation in some of these places, have just been fired. And you're gonna have to make a decision. You're gonna have some cognitive dissonance, because your selfish side is gonna want to say, well, as long as I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. And I'm good in these white suburban areas. But if your community is not good, then you are not good, and your lineage is not good. And your children are gonna have to pick up the pieces. If you have children, your children are gonna have to pick up those pieces and struggle and fight another day. And it's like, we've been doing that for 400 years. What are we going to change this? Like, what's the option? It's the type of thing, there's no point in fighting it. You just divest, diversify, and de-escalate yourself to Africa. I don't even care if you want to go to Brazil. I don't care if you want to go to Thailand, but at least diversify yourself to an Eastern world point, to an Eastern view, because the West is going to literally choke all of your energy out. That is what they were commissioned to do. They are here to choke all of your energy out, and it will continue to be choked out. It's not going to let up. We're on week 1 of the MAGA, stuff and the policies. And I just want you to imagine, allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, allow yourself to be creative, and allow your imagination to show you what's going to happen. Because if you are just honest with yourself, you know what life is going to be like in North America. If you just allow yourself to be in reality, don't push yourself aside, don't manipulate yourself, don't gaslight yourself into being like, oh, well, everything's fine, it's beautiful, it's so great. It's not great. And it has never been great in North America, and it never will be great again. Because the reality is, according to the scriptures, everyone must reap what they sow. And so what are you sowing for yourself and for your lineage and for your community and the next generation? That's the question I leave you with. Shalom, shalom. Bye, Black.